I don't think that I need to tell you guys how the car market is volatile, but I will anyways. The car market is volatile, which means that if you are someone who's wanting to make a vehicle purchase in 2025, planning for that purchase can be extremely difficult. When is the right time to buy? How much should you pay? Which car should you get? These are all questions that should be considered, and I know that they're ones that I ask myself whenever I am planning to make a vehicle purchase. And while I don't have a crystal ball and I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, I can tell you what cars you should, absolutely without a doubt, avoid buying, given the current state of this car market, and potentially which ones you should look for instead. So let's get started. First is Tesla, really anything Tesla, but especially the Model S. Tesla is riddled with problems right now, from the publicized political repercussions to the sheer fact that Tesla sales are tanking. But that aside, factually speaking, Teslas depreciate very poorly. According to recent reports, the Model S had the worst depreciation in the used car market in 2024, and Tesla as a brand lost more than any other auto manufacturer. The Tesla Model S lost the most value of any vehicle, losing 17.2% of its value in the first year, which equates to $9,944 over the course of a year. The Tesla Model Y was fifth and saw a 13.1% drop in value, or $4,634, and the Model 3 placed eighth with a 10.9% depreciation in the first year, which equates to $3,193, while the Model X was the best amongst the Tesla lineup, seeing a 7.3% decline in value, or $4,387 over that first year. That is an insanely high depreciation, and I will admit that depreciation across electric vehicles in general is very bad, but the fact that not only does Tesla have this EV depreciation looming over it, but it also has the rhetoric currently surrounding the company. You pair this with poor sales and a relatively uncertain future, this makes for a bad scenario, and this is a car that I personally would not currently touch with a 10-foot pole, especially if things like resale value and being able to sell the car later on if you'd want to is something that you have on your mind whenever you're making a vehicle purchase. Now, I know that this isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison, but if a new Model S is your style, getting something like a Porsche Cayman or a Porsche 911, that would be a much better bet, as these cars have much better depreciation than Teslas. If a Cybertruck is something that you're considering, then get literally anything else. And while the Model 3 has terrible depreciation relative to gas cars, seeing a 45% decline in value in 5 years, it's actually quite good when it's compared to other EVs. So Tesla baggage aside, the Model 3 actually isn't a bad choice if you are someone who's looking for a relatively affordable electric vehicle sedan. Next is Jaguar, and this is a bit of a weird one because the Jaguar has in recent years been one of the cars with the worst 5-year depreciation of any vehicle, losing a staggering 72% of its value in just 5 years. That is absolutely insane. But today, Jaguar actually doesn't sell the I-Pace new, and so if you want to buy this vehicle new, well, you can't, and you instead have to buy it used. But given the fact that this vehicle's 5-year depreciation is just horrendous, I wouldn't even recommend buying these cars used. But I-Pace aside, Jaguars depreciate very poorly, and they sort of always have. But the fact that Jaguar is in a major state of limbo where they're producing basically no new cars, they have an uncertain future, and they are a brand heavily impacted by tariffs, this is one I'd steer clear of. And with just a quick Google search, you can find a ton of F-Paces that were selling for between 60 and 70 grand new that are now selling for around 40 grand just a year old. Not to mention Jaguar's terrible reliability rating, ranking 29th out of 32 and seeing a 2.5 rating out of 5. And so in a world where auto parts are about to be tariffed 25%, the fact that Jaguar is in itself imported, it has poor reliability, terrible depreciation, this is truly a recipe for disaster, and I can't really think of a car that would be worse to buy in this current market. Now, when it comes to alternatives to the Jaguar I-Pace or F-Pace, unfortunately, most luxury SUVs depreciate pretty badly. And so there really isn't a comparable one that you can look at and say, yes, this is a great alternative to this car, and you're going to save a ton of money with a similar ownership experience. And so truthfully, I would go as far as to say that really any luxury vehicle is better than a Jaguar at this point in time. Whether it's BMW, Audi, Mercedes, probably the best option would be Lexus, but going with anything other than Jaguar would be a better choice. And on the topic of luxury SUVs is Land Rover, Range Rover, and this is a car that I would stay away from at all costs. Now, I got to admit, I actually like this car. I like the way that it looks. I think that it's a cool vehicle, but I would never, ever consider buying one. This car has an MSRP of over 100 grand, which means that it is subject to a tariff of at least 25 grand. And it's unclear how this automaker is going to end up handling tariffs, whether the cost will be passed to the buyer, whether they'll absorb some of the costs, whether it will be shared. We don't really exactly know. It is safe to assume that Land Rover prices are absolutely going to go up. It is really just a question of by how much. Meaning that if you are someone who wants to buy this vehicle new, you're going to have to pay a very high price for that. And again, given the fact that tariffs are extremely volatile, we don't know exactly how long they're going to last. Let's say, for example, you buy this car in the summer of 2025, you pay a $25,000 tariff on that vehicle, and then in 6 months tariffs are reversed. Well, you are going to lose a ton of money on depreciation, given the fact that car prices will then in turn go down as a result of tariffs going away. And I think that this is a scenario that absolutely is not out of the question of occurring, and it is something that I think anybody who's looking to buy a new car in this current tariff economical situation, it is something that you should be keeping in mind. If you buy a car under the tariff policy, pay for that tariff, and then tariffs go away, you're going to see accelerated depreciation on your vehicle. But I digress. And this is all assuming that they're going to resume shipments to the US because as of now, they've paused shipments, which they've said is due to tariffs. But tariffs aside, this car has a very bad 5-year depreciation of 62.9%. And according to RepairPal, this car has a reliability rating of 2 out of 5 and ranks 15th out of 19th for luxury SUVs. This car is already expensive to buy and expensive to repair, so imagine whenever tariffs are in full effect, this is going to be incredibly expensive to own. Now, similar to what I said earlier in the context of the Jaguar, luxury SUVs and crossover vehicles just really don't hold their values well. And so whenever it comes to an alternative to the Land Rover, there really is nothing that is an apples to apples comparison. And so instead, I would probably recommend looking at something like the Lexus GX. Sure, you'll still have to worry about the tariffs, but the GX is the perfect mix of rugged and luxury, and it looks amazing. Sure, I will admit that Land Rover and Lexus don't exactly have the same connotation with their names, and if you are someone who cares about brand names, Lexus may not do it for you the same way that Land Rover does. But in my personal opinion, I think the Lexus GX looks significantly better than anything in the Land Rover lineup. The GX is cheaper to buy, has significantly better reliability, and the car is much easier and cheaper to maintain and repair because of the fact that it is under the Toyota umbrella. Now, the Lexus GX is still relatively new because of the fact that it was a refreshed vehicle within its lineup, but I personally think that this car will be one of the best at holding its value in the luxury segment. Now, truthfully, these are some of the swaps that I think could be great if you are someone who is looking to buy a new car in 2025. But truthfully, I think one of the best recommendations that I could give is to try to hold off on buying a new car at least for a few months. I think that there is a likelihood that the tariff situation could pivot and change. There has already been discussions about it floating around in the context of auto parts, car makers, but even China. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I think the people that will really get screwed by tariffs are the people that run out and buy tariffed items at a premium cost. And while as of right now, most automakers have opted not to pass down the cost to the consumer, if tariffs continue through June, July, and August, those costs will eventually come down to us, car buyers. And if you are someone who buys a car with a 25% inflated price onto it, and then a month later tariffs go away, well, you basically flush that 25% down the toilet because car prices will go down as a result. And this could create a real major problem for anybody who goes out and buys these inflated car prices because this is going to put them severely underwater on their car loans, which again is a major problem in itself. So truthfully, my number one recommendation would be to hold off on buying any new cars, at least until we have some stability with this tariff situation. But if you are someone who is going to buy a new car regardless of tariffs, I would encourage you to find one that has a history of holding its value well, good reliability ratings, and in a perfect world, one that doesn't have to be imported. Though I think that that's optional because the reality is there are a lot of great cars that are imported and you may just want to buy those even with the tariff in mind. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.